time is 6:04. The first item on the work session agenda is board policy. Clerk Rowe?
Yeah, what I submitted, as you can see, is a really downsized version, and that's come from, as you know, the board. We submitted and talked about it a couple different meetings, and then the board's, we were going to meet, the request was to meet with the attorney, so Angela King and I sat down, or she actually reviewed the entire thing and then called me up and said, it's better, let's just have a meeting than versus try to do it on email. And her recommendation, of course, I want to preface this by, because she said this, it's totally up to the board. It's their rule, it's their procedures. She's recommending that we don't use rules if we go with keeping out all the legal, anything that references laws. Most of that stuff that not most of it, all the things that are not now in there are not in there because they are actually a state law. And she felt it was much better that we shouldn't put things that are in state laws into our rules because, as I think some of us, even when we were making revisions to the original old, we started scratching out things that actually we couldn't scratch out and changing those because they're actually state laws. And she says that's the problem is down the road when none of us are here, somebody looks at it and they'll want to change them and may not be as knowledgeable as some of us are about what's covered under the Open Meetings Act or the General Township Act statutes that cover it. So what you see left is things that are not, the things that were removed were everything that was actually covered under a law somewhere. So. And the idea was to switch it from rules, because rules could be seen as the law, whereas it's really it's a policy or procedures of the board. Well, we all agree on how we're going to function on those things that are outside of the preview, where we have more freedom, because you don't have freedom to change anything regarding a state requirement, a legal requirement.
Discussion? Trustee Russell?
Yeah, I just had a question in regards to number 4, and I'm thinking it's the draft, right? So I'm looking at I want to make sure I'm looking at the right information. In regards to the order of business, and nothing against the order of business, but I guess my question was, it used to be on the order of business, it was a line item for trustee comments. Not to say that trustees may or may not have comments, but it used to be there. And I guess my question is, why did it get taken out? And when did that happen?
Are you referring to the new?
We're referring to the draft, and the side of the draft in the order of business, number 4, the new one. So that's the draft. Under order of business, and I'm asking because now this may go into like a board, say, policy. It used to be a line item for trustee comments prior to, if I have it correct, 2016. If there's, Sam may know better than I do because he's been on the board longer. But in the same aspect, I know it has been taken out. I can't remember if it happened when we first got on the board or was it before that? But here's my question would be, is there any way to get it back in?
Well, as Angela King said, it's up to the board. The old one did not have that, but it did have like citizen, I don't know what page it is, but it's rule number 5.3, order of business under the very ancient. But you're correct. There was other reports. There was a clerk's report, I think. There were several other reports that were in there. I don't recall exactly when they were taken out. And I don't remember a discussion really of why we took them out.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Jimmy.
Yes, I believe we probably had supervisor, clerk, and trustee reports on there for about a year since I've been on the board, and then it just kind of disappeared. So we just kind of stopped having them. So I guess I'd like to know why also. I have no problem with putting them back on or leaving them off because I know we all make our comments anyways, but.
I don't know why.
I don't either.
I guess, a follow-up, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
If there's any way, I'm just speaking for me, obviously it would be a board decision, but I would like to see them put back on. Sometimes, trustees within their time outside of the board, I'm sure everyone does different things, and they might want to report on those. So it would be great to have them back on.
So there's none on here now, right? And there was none before.
There was none in the old ancient policy, somewhere between there and now.
I think it's because it's action item. I mean, I could be wrong, but usually agenda items for township government is to take action on the item instead of just getting updates, but maybe we could do it in the work session? I don't know. I'm just looking for
If I can, I mean, since I've been here for 16 years, it's been hit or miss. Supervisors used to give a monthly report of every meeting you'd go to and everything. We didn't take any action on those. Clerk would give a report, treasurer could give a report, and then any trustees that had anything they wanted to say. That was the first one that got cut, and then eventually the other reports just disappeared.
That's probably.
We didn't necessarily take any action on any of those reports. So I'm okay if you add it, because there are things that will come up that we've attended during the course of the 2 weeks or the 4 weeks that we've not been here that may not be on the agenda. So when and where would be the appropriate time to speak about something if it's not on the agenda? That's the only thing I would add. Tonight we have an agenda, and as we look at it, maybe there's not anything on those things that a trustee would add, but possibly one of the 4 trustees has done something else in the interim over the 2 weeks, and there's no agenda item really. And we don't speak during the public comment because that's for the public to speak to us, and we don't, at least I don't think we're supposed to respond at that time, so.
And the same is true for the clerk, the treasurer.
Correct,
the supervisor.
absolutely.
I mean,
Yep.
I could talk for a long time about some of the meetings we had, but the question is, do we want it on the agenda or do we want it, on the work sessions? Update, should it be in written form as well as verbal? I'm just asking. It can be either way. And this is just a work session, so we're just.
I guess if,
Table, because it's not round, but the intent is to round.
I guess if I was to offer 2 cents, I would say during the regular board meeting when more of the public may be present. I don't think you need to have it on both.
Right.
And the public's going to see generally both the work session minutes, I guess they could, and the regular, but they may be here as well. So I don't think more of the public shows up at a work session. I think you see more people more often than not
Should it
at a
be
regular board
written?
meeting.
As well as,
Should we write out what we want to say?
yeah, and just put it on no, just your meetings that you attended and things that are.
I'll do whatever the group is. I'm just guessing that maybe a verbal report is what we're talking about, a verbal update, because that would be contained then in the minutes. And if anybody wanted verbatim what you said, they could request that. Seems like if you put them in a written form, it would be a duplication of effort.
It'd be under committee reports,
Like you do in the.
yeah, like we do for other directors, but I'm not,
Well, I don't think, I think we fall in a little bit different category than other directors. So I would say a verbal report would be suffice for me, but
Madam Chair. Yeah, thanks. I guess since I brought it up, I do lean towards what Trustee Eldridge is saying. Now, the time can be limited in order to make sure.
that's what was going to be my next question.
In order to make sure it doesn't go to 15 minutes of worth of report.
Right.
But in the same aspect, I do believe that, a verbal report, it can be done. It can be done with, within, in my opinion, it should be able to be done within 3 minutes. And not everyone will have to give a report every time. So that also limits, I guess you could say, maybe sometimes everyone will have to give a report, but in the same aspect, I don't believe it's going to lengthen the agenda too much in order to, might as well say, carry it on beyond a normal time of whatever it may be. So I would agree, again, with Trustee Eldridge. I think it can be verbal, in my opinion, and if need be, put a time of 2 to 3 minutes on it.
Madam Chair,
Yes. Trustee Heather.
I don't care one way or the other if the report's on, because any comments that I feel are necessary, like to the people that, need them or want them, or to relevant agenda items for the day. But if we do that, I don't really like the idea of a time limit, because, like, again, we're elected officials, and, if I really needed to rant on about something for 5 minutes, I might need to do that. And that's what I was elected to do, so if we're gonna do it, I don't like the idea of having a time limit. And I like to be to the point, usually.
Well, you do.
Yeah.
I don't, I know.
Well, right, but so are we gonna put a time limit on Clerk Lovejoy Row over there? Like, so no, I just think that a time limit is not an appropriate thing that I would like to see in there. I think that if just everyone understands that brevity is a great thing, to just embrace that when they're speaking on issues, but not to give us a rule about how long we can talk. That's belittling to me.
Madam Chair, it wasn't a rule in regards to how long people can talk. That was just a suggestion, but in the same aspect, a suggestion can be accepted or rejected. Either way, I do believe it should be on the agenda.
Okay.
So should we do it after the action? I mean, if we're really going to talk about it, let's talk about it.
I think if I can, if we're talking about adding it, I think the appropriate place would make it item number 5 and bump everything down a number. I don't think you'd want to put it as part of the consent agenda on number 4.
So you
Yeah, and
Did you say after the attorney's report or before? I'm sorry.
I would say,
D.
I think you would do them in order, starting just before the attorney report. You would certainly then make number 5 a supervisor report, number 6 a clerk report, number 7 would be a treasurer report, number 8 would be trustee report, and then number 9 would be attorney report.
So.
Or you can simply say board report number 5.
Yeah, board updates maybe?
Sure,
That.
sure. You can just make it one heading and say board member updates.
And I am just asking for professional courtesy, should it be at the end of the agenda as opposed to the beginning, and we conduct the business that we're voting on first?
The only thing I would say to that is if you do it at the end, most of your township residents, your constituents may be gone and not hear what you say. I think it's important that they hear any member of the board say what they think they need to say or get out. So I would just say it should be at the front end.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I would just like to say too that all the time, and this isn't necessarily written out in the, rules we're talking about of policy, but every time on our work session, it does say other discussion. So I personally think that's an appropriate place to tell any comments if you want. Maybe just we've gotten away from the habit of doing it, and we should get back to that. But there is that space. Otherwise, why do you leave that there?
So we could have board reports and other discussion?
Yeah. I mean, that's just
That's an idea, yeah.
I was just thinking about people who come and are doing presentations, and, we have to vote on their agenda items. Just professional courtesy more than anything.
If we're limiting it to 2 or 3 minutes, I don't think it's going to be that big a block of time.
We're not limiting it.
If the idea is to be professionally courteous and be brevity. So. I don't care either way. I don't care either way. I just think it's important to put it back on there. Should any board member have something to say, they have an opportunity to do that on a regular, consistent basis.
Okay, so how many people want it in the front and how many people want it in the end? So if I revise these, I can at least get the consensus. I frankly.
I'd prefer it at the end, just
and
out of,
other under discussion, other suggestions.
because that could be 21 minutes, if everyone did 3 minutes before we got to any agenda item. Just saying,
Madam Chair?
yes.
Yeah, I would, think that you'd maybe do it in a work session. I haven't seen many more people in the board meeting. It's not in a work session, a few, but that way you can take an hour. Or, if it's a long one, we can start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Stop it. Stop.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I should not have laughed about that. That is not funny. But in the same aspect, I would agree that, well, I just want to make a comment first. A lot of times, other business gets missed, and maybe, and it's understandable. It's at the end of the agenda. It's sometimes been a long meeting, and it just gets missed. I mean, it's sometimes, it just gets missed. So because of that, I would agree that it should go on to the, it can go either before the attorney's reports or after, but it definitely should just be board discussion. I do agree that just out of the case of professional courtesy, which I do agree with you, Supervisor Stumbo, that we should be mindful of people that are here for meetings when we're giving those comments and try and keep them, in mind when we're doing that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd agree with Trustee Eldridge, Trustee Ross Williams about putting it on the regular meeting agenda and putting it before new business or before old business, somewhere towards the beginning of the agenda, whatever spot we feel like putting it, but somewhere at the beginning of the agenda for the regular meeting, 7 o'clock.
All right, I don't think that we necessarily have a consensus on that yet. On the plate,
Heather said work session. Mary said work session. I said end of the agenda. Monica and Jimmy and Stan wanted it in the beginning. I don't know what you want.
frankly, I don't care. All right, so I'm confused. So how many people, I guess, want it in the beginning?
3. So far, I said. Is that correct?
And how
I mean,
many-
that's what I heard.
And Larry wanted it in the work session. So if you're the only, who else wants it in the work session? That's 2. I'd say work session. That's 3. Brenda says 4. Work session. And we could put it,
In the beginning.
let's put it in the
In the
beginning.
beginning of
so-
the work session.
Yeah, that way you know you'll get to it.
Why would you put it, if I may? If you want it at the end of a regular meeting, why would you put it at the beginning of a work session where you're going to have the same people you're talking about, many of the same items?
For me, I'll express mine, why
I know why. Go ahead.
the work session for me is because we normally have more, because when we start, unless our agenda's like that one last week, we normally have more time, and then everybody, including the citizens and us, can get out of here and, get on home, I mean, just if it's in the if it's in the work session. The board meetings always have, they start at 7, they're not starting any earlier, and if the agenda is really long, it could be to 9 or 10 o'clock, and then like you said, Stan, and then if it's at the end of that, or at the beginning, it's pushed, anyways, it's pushing that longer. I just think it's more relaxed and more, and since it's not agenda, not an action item, and I hear what you're saying, but usually when I have people that, Lisa and I try, we don't always remember, but we really try to remember anybody that has an action item, whether it's, museum or, a consultant, OHM or whatever, we try to figure out the best guess as, I usually give them the option, either work session or board meeting, and try to figure out where on the agenda, like come at 5 o'clock, you can be there right away, or no, we got these 2 things, so probably 6 o'clock's better, or 6:30. So I don't know if I rambled on and just talked too much and made any sense, but
That's an
I'm done.
example.
I'm done. I'm trying to. Yeah, but anyways, that's me.
The only thing, so we really don't have work session, not rules, what did you call them? So would we need to,
Yeah, we could agree here. I mean, I think on the work session agenda is going to be the board agenda, and then if we're going to add this, we'll have a work session agenda that would have the reports in the beginning, if we all agree that's where we want it.
Madam Chair?
yes,
I'd like to ask that if we're going to put it in the work session at the beginning, can it also be allowed for a written report as well to be submitted in the packet? I mean, you don't have,
He didn't say
you don't have to.
he asked.
There's an option to allow, to
some people
be
do not.
added to the packet in advance.
Is the purpose just to talk about what meetings you've attended as trustees? Is that the intent, Stan, that,
I don't know, I didn't bring it up, but I would offer this.
Monica, did you?
Go ahead, I'll let you.
I was just going to say, there's 7 people here elected. 1, why would we be on a time frame? 2, there's been times we're out of meetings here at 7:20 in the evening. If you look at all of these surrounding communities, our meetings go quicker than anybody in this area. Some of them go till 1 in the morning at local cities. I guess I'm just trying to figure out why a trustee who's been elected by residents can't have 2 minutes to speak at a board meeting. I'm not sure what the issue is with that.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I actually would like to, the point of it was to actually give a report of maybe you attended certain meetings, maybe you basically wanted to report out that you attended those meetings. If there's items on the agenda that's already scheduled to be discussed, those items, and any trustee, in my opinion, can discuss those items when it's time on the agenda. But as for, I don't know, if you're going on 10 minutes about something that's coming up on the agenda, to me, that would be out of order. But in the same aspect, I do believe that it should, and I know the vote, it seemed like the vote changed a couple of times. I'm just going to make it.
We're just discussing.
Make it clear.
We're just discussing what
Yeah.
we're voting.
Make it clear for the record, at least for my behalf. I definitely would like to have it on the regular meeting agenda. If it goes on the work session, basically based by the vote, I guess that is what it is. But in the same aspect, I do believe it should be, and I'm just speaking for me, to report items that like meetings that you attended or those things. It's not to discuss, again, in my opinion, items that are on the agenda. If it's
Well, I
on
mean,
the-
is the purpose to report out the meetings? Because that's what we
Yeah.
did before, that's what it was about. And if it's clear that that's the intent, because not everyone, some people could take advantage of certain time period, and we don't want that. The intent is to show what meetings board members have attended.
Exactly.
Is-
I would concur with that.
Is that correct? I mean, I don't know.
That's the intent of me. I can't speak for everyone else. Other people may have other intents, but that was my intent of why I had asked for it to want to have this discussion, to have it back on the agenda.
But you didn't ask for just trustees, you asked for everyone, because
Yeah.
no one
Yeah.
is on the agenda. Trustee Eldridge,
That
there's
is
no
true.
one on the agenda that does it. So it wasn't just against the trustees, it was, no one's on it right now.
Well, I mean, technically, if I have it correct, what we previously discussed was board, I guess you could say, I don't know if it's board reports. So you're correct. Everyone would have an opportunity. And if I have it correct, based on what I remember, what it was that was previously discussed during that time was, like you had said, a
Attending
readout of attending meetings.
Right.
Right. That's what was previous when I remember it.
Right.
So if it's following the nature of what was previously done, yes, it would be attending meetings. Anything that's on the agenda would be discussed where it comes up on the agenda.
Because there's lots of issues we can bring up at any time, but if it's, well, I don't like it in the beginning of the agenda, because I think we should take care of business of, that's just how I feel. It's action, we vote on things, they're here for the meeting, and if you wanted it on the regular meeting, it should be at the end of the meeting after the action. It could be before authorizations and bids, because that's something that's, not, if you wanted.
I don't,
Clerk Rowe?
I was just going to say, I mean, and maybe that's why we took it up. I don't remember discussion, but it's almost like, if it's just reporting on we're going to meetings, to me, it's like, why don't you just put that in a written report and we'll put it in there? Because I just think it's so boring for people to listen to you. And I was guilty of it too. Brenda did it. So I did it because Brenda was doing it, and then there's, it's kind of what happened. It was just like, well, let me say all the thing I'm doing, too. And I'll be honest. Yeah, and there he doesn't know. Okay. Yeah, and it's just like, so it's just kind of like, I don't know. It's just like, yeah, and I went to the Urban County meeting, and then we're working. I mean, we did more than the meetings. Like I would do Urban County and say, these
That's
are
meetings.
the two, but then you would go on to
Report
say,
out.
here's what we did at those meetings, and then we did this and that, we did this and that, but yeah, it's just, anyways. But everybody has the right to say and do however they want to do it, so.
Madam Chair, and I just want to make it clear for me who introduced the item, basically, or at least a discussion, it is to report things that are done within the period in between meetings. So that's where my head is with it. If the board, people on the board basically saying shouldn't be on the regular meeting agenda, I disagree with that, but in the same aspect, I will respect the will of the board.
So are you willing to compromise from being in the beginning of the agenda as opposed to the end? Because it's still on the regular meeting agenda. I mean, that's,
Madam Chair, I can say for me, my main purpose was to see it back on the agenda. Now, as for where it goes, again, I particularly wanted it after attorney reports, but I will be able, I mean, I can just speak for me, either before or after authorization or the bids. Okay, yep.
okay. The new rules, does it refer to any of the taping and, what do you call it? It's not taping, that's a wrong.
I think we said they'll be available on the website, the agenda board packet. Where's the minutes? I don't know, I don't remember that.
I was
Maybe
just
I didn't
trying,
include it because we didn't have it done now or yet, I don't know. No, it's not in there.
because we've kind of added that, since these 1960 or 50 rules, I'm not sure, but we've added, the tape is uploaded for people to view. I don't know if we need to, do you need to put that in there or no?
I mean, we could put it in there, it's, it's not necessary, but we can.
Well, it's not a state law.
I mean, no, it's not, but we all agreed to do that.
Right.
So we could put that in there,
Do you want
so,
it to carry forward?
so
right?
the, even though we don't have the other recordings yet, but.
I was just trying to think of, like, if you're going to change it, think of everything.
You could just put audio and video whenever they're, when available, will be uploaded. How's that?
Trustee Young?
Karen, on this packet, or Lisa, is it just the 6 bulleted points? Is that the whole board rules? The last one be
It's
parliamentary
now
authority?
called policy, but yeah,
Okay, board policy.
Yeah.
Okay, can I just ask,
will be loaded.
and I didn't think of it until we started discussing the reports, under public comments number 3, if I'm looking at the 6 bulleted points, because I always hear us say that they have 3 minutes to talk. I don't see where it says any time limit for the public in there. Not that I'm advocating for one, but if we're going to tell them they only have 3 minutes, I think we should have it in the rules so they know that. Because what I don't want is person A to get up and we don't like what they say and we cut them off at 3 minutes, and person B comes up and we let them talk for 20 minutes, which sometimes happens.
I mean, currently, we let people pretty much talk whenever they want.
But under public comment, he's saying. like-
Under public comments, if we're going to limit them, then I think we need to
Oh,
note
for
in
the
here.
public comments, not the agenda item.
You're talking
That's
about public comment.
Public comments
Yeah.
number 3. So if we're going to limit it, I think we should note in there what that limit is.
Yeah,
So
just
we don't get accused of any,
tell me what it is.
I'm okay with 3 minutes or 5 minutes. I mean, whatever we've been doing, it seems to have worked. But I just want to make sure we're consistent with
I
it,
don't
that
think
it's
we
written
can
down
tell.
under the,
No, I've stated 3 minutes before.
Yeah.
I don't know where
So,
that
are we,
authority.
everybody good with 3 minutes?
sure.
Madam Chair,
That's public comments only.
I
Section.
believe at one point in time, and I may be wrong, but 3 minutes used to actually be on the agenda at one point. So.
Something was.
Right, so if that's the case, then going back to 3 minutes, well, actually 3 minutes probably has been the quasi standard, so might as well stay the standard.
So the changes I got is that, add a section on that the audio and video recordings will be on the, I mean, we are doing it, the board's agreed to do it, so we want that to continue down the road. If the next board doesn't want to, they can take it out, but when they update 40 years from now, these were policies. So the video stuff, or the record, audio and video, whenever we get video, we're working on that. On the website, and the 3-minute limitation under public comments. And was there consensus that the reports, it's going to say board reports and discussion, and that's going to go after or before? It's going to go on the regular agenda before or after authorization and bids?
I think it would be more appropriate after, where it says other business, number 9.
I concur. Anybody else?
I'm good with that. That's fine.
All right. So,
And the other, I'm sorry, Stan, you wanted to say?
Are we going over the other bullet points? Is this appropriate to bring it up now?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the number 2, the regular meeting agenda. It says that they have to have the items in preceding the first Friday before the next business, or before the next meeting. Karen, you just sent me an email a bit ago that you're going to move it to Monday.
yeah, Brendan and I were talking, and then I shared with Lisa what Brendan and I thought, because we just thought, because the truth of the matter is, even though it's Friday, we don't normally put the packet together on the weekend, so we thought, well, then that could give staff or whoever, or even board members, the weekend to work on something. And we originally, Brendan and I talked about 11 o'clock, and we thought, well, that's only an hour, we go to lunch at 1, so why don't we just say, at 1, or go to lunch at 12, why don't we just say the deadline is 1 o'clock on Monday? That's 3-4 hours more than what we had before, and still keep our goal. I think we can make it, I think since we've been a little bit harsher on agenda items and when they need to get in, or more clear, more direct, I won't say harsher, that folks have done a better job, and we have been able to turn out, which my ultimate goal, and I think the board's goal, was to give residents and the board members more than just the weekend in one day. So we'll still work on getting that packet out, or our deadline for getting that packet out will be late on Wednesday. The Wednesday, yeah, for the board meeting. So it's 6 days. It's 6 days.
I didn't know if you were done, I'm sorry.
My only comment, I would just ask that we move it to 4 o'clock and give them a full day on Monday, because we all know when you come back after a weekend, Monday morning can be very difficult depending on which department you're in. Now you're going to ask them to get all that done, plus their board agenda items by noon, because they're going to go to lunch at noon. So there's really no difference in some cases than having it on Friday. I would just request that you make it to 4 o'clock on Monday.
The difference for us was getting more time, because we've actually shortened our time and our office time by it was Friday night it went out, and we're moving that all the way up until 2 days. So we're losing 2 days. So I think for them to lose a half a day, it's probably fair.
I guess my follow-up would be, what is so magical about having it out by Wednesday instead of Thursday? Because if it's out Thursday, you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 5 full days, plus the day of the meeting that people have it. So really almost 6 full days. I'm not sure what's magical about Wednesday.
It was just to be more transparent, because the more you get it out, the more it's going to be shared, more people can get a chance. My ultimate goal personally was, it would be great if we could have it out a week before, so people have a whole week. So
I
you
think
can't say you didn't know about it or didn't know that it was out there. But
I just think it makes it difficult for everybody to try and get the paperwork in by that time. So I would just ask, at least if we're going to keep it Monday, go to 4 o'clock. And my second question would be, in that same bullet point of number 2, the last sentence says that items not received by the stated deadline shall not be considered by the board except unanimous consent.
that's actually the law, but
So if we walk in here on a Tuesday afternoon and something's been added and one person says, no, I don't want to discuss it tonight, that ends that, correct?
no, it's when it's on the agenda, like we get it on the agenda before the board meeting, because there's not a deadline on that. Actually, by law, you don't even have to have an agenda. So as long as you have that before, but anything that you want to change or add to a meeting,
So,
that's the law, that it has to be, if any one person's, the whole idea is that you're not putting something on when somebody's gone or absent.
I don't
so
understand
I
how
guess,
it's written.
I guess, then, yeah, now I'm really confused. So by law, we don't have to have a written agenda for the public to see.
You have to have, it's the notice of the meeting.
Just a notice of the date and the time, but not what the agenda is.
That's my understanding. Now, I'd probably need to double check that.
Doesn't that run contrary then to being transparent about having the information out so early?
No, I mean, we've always had agendas since,
31 years.
yes.
Right, and I'm not arguing that point.
We're okay.
My issue is when we get something placed in front of us that maybe four trustees who are not here as often
Oh, yeah. Oh, I
see
hear
an
what you're
hour
saying.
before a meeting, and now we're asked to make a decision on it,
Right.
when we've had no real opportunity to discuss it amongst ourselves, look at it, review it. That's not very transparent for us as board members who are making a vote. So if we leave it this way, that's fine, but I'm going to object every time then that something gets placed on the docket here before us when we haven't had a chance to see it.
Gotcha.
Trustee Rowe?
Just to sort of a little bit follow that, I need to like verbally say this out loud. So the last sentence is, items that the clerk does not receive by the stated deadline shall not be considered by the board except upon the unanimous consent when all the members are present.
It probably should read to
So it
say-
shouldn't be on the agenda, like it should come to the board and then we should say, we have an item that we'd like to add to the agenda and we'd like to vote on it, or something along those lines. That wasn't actually my whole point. I wanted to talk about something else, but
That's actually
That's
the
when I
law.
read
so
it, that's what it
probably should look
says.
that up more.
I thought we said we weren't putting the law in our.
I know,
Stay away from
well, it's just because it involved the agendas and making sure that everybody understood that, but.
Well,
so
my
I can
other
research
point,
that more.
unrelated to that sentence, is that I don't mean to like sound like a rigid person, but like, if it's a rule that you have to have something in by this time, or it's not going to be on the agenda, like, I personally would like it if we just stuck to that. Like,
So would
my
I.
workplace, if you don't get your schedule, request in, well, sorry, Charlie, the deadline's been the deadline since it's been the deadline, and, when we make exceptions, and I know that sometimes things come up that are true emergencies, but typically they're not. It's just like someone missed a deadline and whatever. I just think that we should always make an exception for the rule. Otherwise, this rule is pointless. That's all.
Madam Chair, sorry, I was actually trying to look up something, but I'm not finding it. So I'm going to kind of go back through a series of questions because I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So let me reopen the packet. Give me a second. That's what happens.
Well, while you're looking for your question,
Yep.
a good example of what happened is that on Friday, Nathan Vogt contacted us and said we could be reconsidered for environmental cleanup brownfield dollars. I think it was on Friday or Monday, Doug, which one was it? And their meeting is Wednesday. That's an exception, would you say that? Okay,
It's not like,
okay, well,
oh,
that's.
someone forgot to get their contract in or someone
That just,
forgot
yeah.
to,
So that is just an example of what happened this week with it, and if we move it to Monday, that would help, because right now we have a board meeting Tuesday, and we have to have the agenda Clerk Rowe would like it in by Friday. That was really hard to turn around, so at least if we have until Monday, I think that will help deal with some of the pop-ups that we have.
Yeah, and my thing, I said, because we shortened our time by 2 days, but, I mean, if we could all agree and just really, I think if all of the elected officials really supported that with staff, that unless it's a real emergency, if we didn't make changes from that time forward, it wouldn't stress our office out, to lose the 2 days that we had before to prep the agenda. Because I had all the way to Friday, but that's because people would send stuff in, even though the deadline was Monday. I'd get something on Tuesday, I'd get something on Wednesday, I'd get something
did
on
it all the
Thursday. So if, so I don't have any problem of losing 2 days in order to get the agenda out, because I really feel strongly, I think 6 days would be great for the public and for everybody.
But you're not losing 2 days from Friday to Monday, because you're not going to put it together on Saturday.
No, I'm talking about from before. Before my deadline was Friday. That's why we moved it all back. The Friday to get the packet out was Friday. So if I had, so moving that, if we're moving, trying to get that, which I know is my own self thing, trying to get it out on Wednesday, then I actually lost from Friday to, 2 days to getting it out. But part of that was even, I would admit, part of it was our own problem for just being too nice and people bringing stuff in. So if we move it to Monday, I hear folks saying they want to go back to the 4 o'clock, then we're just really we're not going to be nice like that anymore unless they get a request from their boss, which everybody works for Brenda, saying it's an emergency and puts it on, with the exception of me or Larry or any board members.
That's not in here.
Yeah, no, I know, I'm just saying. I mean, yeah.
But again, we're saying we don't want to be nice, but we're the ones imposing that deadline. I guess I'm just trying to figure out why it's not Thursday, or I'm sorry, you couldn't give them a full day and get it out by Thursday. You have 5 full days plus the day of the meeting.
I know,
You wanna make it
because we
easy.
want to get it out by Wednesday.
I guess I'm asking why is that a specific deadline?
Because I know a lot of places have it a week, and I just, and I think that I think a week, it's a self-imposed thing. I feel like that the public should have more time than just 2 days, especially when 2 of them are on the.
I don't disagree with 2
especially
days.
2 on the weekends, and the board themselves. Do you
I don't
really
disagree.
want to spend your weekend reviewing all of it?
Trustee Eldred?
I guess, I didn't kind of lost it. So I'm glad to ask this, a set of qualifying questions. If I have it correct, what the original intent of basically making sure that board members had items that were items to be discussed on the working session, that was supposed to be the Wednesday before the meeting, the preceding Tuesday. Am I right or correct?
No, it was before, in the past, it was always Monday at 4 o'clock. Before the week before.
Okay.
And then we moved it up, trying to get it out earlier than Friday.
No, the original board rules were Wednesday.
Yeah.
The original, when I was,
But
we did it
right.
on Wednesday. And then Clerk Road changed it to Monday,
Okay,
and then she changed it to Friday.
okay.
I
So,
never remember it being Wednesday, but that's what it was.
Oh, yeah, it was, well, I think that's what the rules say, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I don't think anybody's.
Oh, yeah.
What are your other questions?
well, yeah, it was. So thank you. So that was number one is that right now is Monday. So at least right now. So then number 2, I guess the 4:30 on Friday, the preceding first Friday before the next regular meeting, we're talking in that case about items, are we talking about the whole agenda? Are we talking about items to be added, like the AKT?
It's the whole agenda.
Okay.
Deadline.
Okay, so then basically, if that's the case, then the public would get the agenda for 4:30 on Friday. They would have,
No, they don't get it until, no.
No?
The packet was going out on Wednesday at 4 o'clock.
okay, so this 4:30, okay, so basically, this would be for township committees or township staff to place the item on the agenda the previous week before the Tuesday. Okay, I just want to make sure I was understanding that
It's how
correct.
we do it now.
Yeah, okay,
But that's why I said we could change that deadline until Monday. We had talked about 11 o'clock, and then we thought about, said 1, and I'm hearing the board say, well, maybe, and Linda's saying, well, maybe it's better, and that's fine, and we'll just hold to adding, not adding stuff after that deadline, because that's what makes it hard to flip it around, because you don't load up the packet, you got to get it all in order and stuff to make it easiest to load it up. It's harder to, it can be done, but it takes a whole lot more time to pull things in and out,
okay, right, okay.
put them back on the web.
Yeah, okay, got it. And then basically, like in the case of AKT, Peerless, I believe, that item came today. I'm assuming that item came today because it was needed because it was already a part of the agenda?
No, it was brand new because Nathan Voigt from the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. Well, we just found out, I don't know, a few days ago that we needed the study done. Because we got the report back from the Midway project, or from the Midway property. And then when that came back, then Doug reached out, I think, to Nathan, and Nathan knew about it. And he said, hey, I think that, because it's $6,000 some dollars, I think because his meeting's tomorrow, I think that if you want, we can move ahead. If you want to get that on your agenda, I'll get it on my agenda and try to get that paid for tomorrow. So then we said, okay, let's try to do that. And the agenda item, it's contingent on getting that money. If we don't get the money, I guess it'll come back as an item later for the board to decide, are we going to spend the money? And if, have more discussion about that at a later date.
Okay, got it, and now I understand. So if that item didn't get added on, then it would have missed, if I have it correct from the supervisor, the date that they're gonna have their meeting, which is Wednesday.
Tomorrow.
Right, okay, which is
Yeah.
literally tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that's a bit of where I'm going with this, is that if it's an item that's concerning, obviously, cash flow, right? In this case, this is to have an environmental study, $6,000 or so dollars. Hopefully, it will go through the Brownfield Development Authority, obviously save, township residents the cash. That's different to me than, okay, well, there needs to be a change inside of a memo, and here it is. I mean, if it actually has to do with things that are going to improve the township, that's different to me. If it happens to do with a memo change or,
They're never memo
Yeah.
changes, because if they get a minute that needs, if someone submits their stuff on time and it's a typo or something's wrong or it's not, in proper form and something, we work with them to get that. But most all the stuff that you end up getting is people, it's just like, they just didn't get time to get it together, or they forgot about it, or, or it's something popped up and, hey, we can get this done, and then we can move it a little bit faster. It's a construction project, or the roof is leaking, or,
Madam Chair.
so there's a variety of reasons why people
almost-
submit late. It's not always just because it's not.
That's just
it's
this
not
example.
It's not negligent.
Right.
It's necessary.
Yeah, and I do.
Because we got so much going on and we're really short-staffed, most of it.
And I do respect that. I think if it's an item that's like, and this is just my opinion, I think if it's an item to save the, township residents, and, obviously, revenue, which is their revenue, that would be different. If it's just because, no offense, someone made a mistake and they couldn't get anything in before the deadline, in my opinion, they need to wait until the next agenda. That's just my opinion, so, go ahead.
Lisa looked at it before we came because I was interested in every single, over the last year, every agenda has been revised, every single one of them. And I really do, and I'm not kidding, I do think that a lot of it, we'd have to go back and look, I may be speaking out wrong here, but I really do think it's because you've got one person doing 2 and 3 people's, there's just a lot of us juggling a lot more responsibilities, and so to try to get everything, we had one person taking care of all these projects, and another person, now you've got one person doing 3 different people's jobs. I mean, there's several people that are doing that, and I might be wrong to go back, prior to like when Jeff was here and Wayne we had all these full-time staff. I don't think that it was as bad as it has been. I could be wrong. We could have done the same thing 2 years ago. I don't necessarily.
Madam Chair.
Take a look at that.
Trustee Rowe?
I guess I didn't mean to interrupt you, Trustee Bruce Williams, sorry about that, but just like when I hear you speaking about those issues, Clerk Rowe, it's that things come to the board that like need to be rushed and done, and I don't think it's appropriate to operate that way. We don't operate in our own lives in a rushed, hurried manner, so business that's done with township taxpayer dollars shouldn't be in a rushed, hurried manner. And it's always like an issue like that. And some things I get, and I want money from the Brownfield redevelopment, don't get me wrong. But if we didn't vote on this issue tonight, wouldn't Nathan Vogt be like, oh yeah, they're waiting until their July blah, blah, blah meeting. And then, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But then there's other things that come up, like instead of getting 1 fire truck, we're getting 2, which is fine and it's great. But put it on like, just put it as you want it the first time, so we're not like surprised by things and rushed to make decisions. I hate making decisions when I feel like I'm under the gun about things. It's not how responsible decisions are made, usually.
I mean, like right now, I mean, I think Doug can speak to it because he's reviewing all the contracts. I think any of us that are here full-time can speak to it, is that you have so many construction projects going on that people are working on, and a lot of it is like the CDBG grants. We're about to lose those if we don't get that dang bus shelter and that Washtenaw Avenue project, because they've been going on for years. And so there's another easement you got to get, and then there's another thing, and so then you're throwing it on the board meeting because you're trying to stay in the time frame that the urban county has set for you in order to keep your funding and source, kind of going. So there's just a lot of balls in the air at the same time, and not as many
Madam
people.
Chair.
So I don't think it's like that fire truck is a totally different thing. That was a surprise, from the audience. They decided to interject that, like, let's get another truck. So that was totally different. But the stuff that when we actually do put it on the agenda, it's not rushed in terms of the workload that people have been doing, and everybody's kind of got a sense of, there's a complete understanding of the project, and you got consultants and everybody working on it. So it's not like, hairy, scary, and we don't know what we're doing. It's just, putting everybody getting all the pieces together and getting it reviewed in time, getting your insurance certificates in time. But it's a project that's been going on. Washtenaw Avenue's really been going on for 4 years. It's a 4-year project. The bus shelters have been going on for over 2.5 years. We would love to get that done this year so that we could actually get those in and people can quit standing in the rain and the snow. But those are just 2 examples.
Thank you. I don't have any further comments, Supervisor Sumbo.
So, and we always also have the ability to call a special meeting if we need it, and sometimes that might be a better approach to give people more time. So back to, when you say that we're going to upload the packet by Wednesday, is there a time frame or just Wednesday? Because
Our goal is to do it before we leave, by 4
Yeah.
o'clock, before we leave.
My goal is to go home.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it normally,
Yeah. But I purposely didn't do a time frame in case something came in an emergency. We promised to get out by midnight. How's that? And we've done pretty good. Yeah, let's get it out by 4:30.
So, Madam Chair, I guess my one qualifying question would be, when it comes to things that are revised, what is going to be the standard with that? I know, sometimes things happen, but I think when it comes to things that are revised, if it's, like the situation with the brownfield, that's different. If it's because someone didn't get something in that they should have gotten to their information, if it's a contractor, are we going to allow that or not?
my understanding of reading this is that really, when people have something that's popped up like it did with Brownfield, it should come to the board. The board should all agree to add it to the agenda based on what's before us. Is it? There's no revised agenda language on here unless you want to add that. Is that correct? I mean, that's my understanding.
I agree.
The problem, okay, and let me just tell you what happens with that. Out of years of experience, I'm in Brenda's role and this role, is that 99.9% of the time the board agrees to do it. And so now you've got records that you have to go back and we have to redo the packet and we have to, everything has to be redone. I think it was easier when you didn't do everything electronically because then all you were doing is doing the minutes. But now, and so for research and trying to figure out stuff, and then if you leave that off in terms of filing and all those, it makes, to do it that way makes for a lot of mistakes and missed material that you'll go back and say, I know that we did that, and you'll see in the minutes that you did it, but the stuff didn't make it to the into the packet. So that, why, I guess I take the position that if we're going to add stuff, let's get them in there, and then everybody's got it, versus coming to the board meeting, handing out a bunch of papers, because that's what happens, you get it on hard copy, and then we got to add it.
Well, with this AKT or whatever it is you knew about it on Friday, though.
No, we didn't.
July 1st is when Doug sent the letter to.
Okay.
It was yesterday. Yeah,
If it was yesterday, we got it
last night.
4:15 today. So we just have to be better as 7 people. We have to be better at this, because so many times, as you said, every agenda has had additions to it. Every one of them. And then when we get here, sometimes there's not documentation for everything. We've told the Planning Commission since I've been there, quit bringing us things that aren't ready to vote on in totality. So we don't have, it's approved on this condition and this condition and this condition. And we should be able to come here and have a full packet ready to go and review. And if we don't, then it shouldn't be on the agenda to come before us.
And if there is a agenda item, you want unanimous.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what the rules say. These rules do not allow.
Policy.
I'm sorry, policy, the board policy. Okay, it's 7 o'clock, 7:01 actually. So we'll continue
We'll put on another work session.
that sounds great.
We didn't
Thank you for.
do it all.
input.
Yeah.
And do you have to change it or no?
Yeah.